All right, everybody's here. It's 9:03. We'll call the meeting to order. First thing is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have approval of last week's minutes.
I'll make that motion to approve them.
Okay, Judy, you move the motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Seconded by Steve. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. And public comment. Anybody wish to address the board? Sure.
Good morning.
Good morning. And as always, are you familiar with the things here?
I think I am. I'm David Williams. I am a land use planning consultant. I live in neighboring Fillmore County. Residents and property owners near the Tracy Erickson property asked me to make a few comments. You received a letter from me late last week regarding Tracy Erickson's desire to get a permit to mine the silica sand on his property. I want to make 2 points. First, since the Erickson property is part of the 3-county group of proposed mining sites that are currently under environmental review by the EQB, Houston County cannot issue any permits until the EIS is completed or until Erickson is able to get a waiver or variance from the EQB. The EIS covers silica sand projects generally, not just silica sand projects where the sand is sold and used for frac drilling, but it also includes so-called ag and construction uses of that sand. That's the first point. Second point, the judge in the Houston County versus Minnesota Sands case interpreted your county moratorium on silica sand activity as meaning, quote, "Of course, the enforcement of the moratorium also means there will not be more limited mining and extraction which have gone on at various times since 1992, end of quote." That's Judge Walters. On May 14th, your counsel, Jay Squires, sent a letter to Bob Scanlon informing him of just those requirements, informing him that Judge Walters' decision on the scope of your moratorium and on the pending EIS. So your staff people are aware of that. I've got a copy of Jay Squires' letter. I'll give it to you so you've got, just so you have a copy of his letter. I think the purpose of my comments in distributing this letter to you is just to let you know that I think it's important for you to inform your county staff so that they don't inadvertently issue any kind of permit to Mr. Erickson. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else care to address the board?
Brian Van Gorp, Houston County. I just want to comment on the absurdity of planning and zoning considering quote-unquote renewing the Erickson CUP. 9 reasons. Number 1, the original permit to Thorson was never valid because the paperwork was never completed in quote-unquote inadvertent screw-up by planning and zoning. Number 2, the original permit has non-transferable written right on it. So even if the original permit was valid, it is not transferable to Erickson. Number 3, there have been 4 CUP violations reported to planning and zoning. Any one of these should have invalidated or revoked the CUP. Number 4, Erickson is asking for a new permitted use, ag sand, which should require a new permit and a new public hearing. Number 5, Houston County is not the current RGU for any of the 5 currently undergoing an EQB mandated EIS, and therefore cannot act on any of these permits in any way. Even if this was resolved, the county has imposed an EAW on the Erickson mine, which has not been done. No action can be taken until these issues are resolved. Number 6, there's currently a 1-mile setback required on any trout stream, for any silica sand mandated by the EQB. There are 2 such trout streams within 1 mile of the Erickson mine. Number 7, the CUP has lapsed by more than 10 months, and therefore it would not be a renewal, it would be a new permit. Number 8, Judge Walters ruled that no mining, even on a limited basis, is allowed at the Erickson mine. Number 9, Erickson has proven he cannot be taken at his word by blatantly violating the moratorium and then attempting to sue the county when they tried to enforce it. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Kelly?
Good morning, Commissioners. This may be a little bit of repeat of what you've already heard, but I understand also that you will be talking with Attorney Jay Squires about this a little bit later today. But I did want to bring a couple of items to your attention. There is an environmental impact statement, or EIS, pending on 11 mines in Houston, Fillmore, and Winona counties. 5 of those mines are in Houston County. Normally, the local unit of government, such as the county, is the responsible government unit, or RGU, for environmental review. However, in this case, these 11 projects crossed county lines, making it difficult to evaluate things like the cumulative effects on traffic, air quality, and water quantity. The Minnesota Environmental Quality Board, or EQB, is the responsible government unit, or RGU, for this EIS. Minnesota Administrative Rule number 4410.3100, entitled Prohibition on Final Governmental Decision, makes it clear that if an EAW or an EIS has been required, a project may not be started and a final governmental decision may not be made to grant a permit, approve a project, or begin a project until the environmental review is complete or the EQB decides otherwise. I think I'll just reiterate what Mr. Williams stated, that I think it's fairly important that you inform the staff about these Minnesota administrative rules. Thank you for the opportunity to address the board.
Thanks, Kelly. Anyone else? Sure.
Good morning, Commissioners. The statement I'm going to read, I believe you have in front of you. I'm Bruce Chemical from Caledonia. I wish to commend previous members of this commission for adopting the 9 purposes of the 2009 county zoning ordinances, and for the current members' efforts to maintain and implement these 9 laudable goals. The issues and situations arising here challenge your beliefs, knowledge, and instinct to come to terms with stated policies and the facts of circumstances laid before you. One such situation is immediately pending: the Sheehan Mine, 1.5 miles from this historic courthouse, and the city Caledonia Wells, whose mineral rights are owned by Bonanza Grain. Section 2609 on page 126 of the zoning ordinance book authorizes you the right to impose a performance bond upon the mine operator to ensure the citizens of Houston County that a completed reclamation of the mined wound upon the land will be accomplished. Not only that, but the bond will ensure that should the operator fail to comply with the reclamation condition of the conditional use permit, The county treasury will be shielded from private default of a voluntary and legal contractual obligation. There are no words of assurance, no assumptions by anyone on either side of this table before me today that can guarantee the performance of the stipulated reclamation condition. The mine operator at the last Planning Commission meeting last Monday, when asked by one of the commissioners as to the life expectancy of the Sheehan mine, replied 20 years. Any number of unforeseeable events may arise in the next 20 years which could jeopardize the fulfilling of the reclamation plan. Only a bond can provide the required funds if needed due to the permit holder's failure to comply for whatever reason. In exercising and fulfilling your duties as county commissioners to protect, conserve, promote the public health, minimize environmental pollution of aquifers, and guard the county treasury, you can be the first sitting board to require a performance bond within the living memory of the oldest Houston County resident.
Bruce, I have to wrap it up too.
I will. I look forward to your prudent affirmation of the zoning ordinance by requiring a performance bond by Bonanza Grain in the manner of the Sheehan mine. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you. I'm Betsy Reedy from Money Creek. I want to open up the conversation that we've been having here for some time now to include what's kind of the elephant in the room, and that's climate change. Your job is to protect the health and welfare of the citizens of the county. That becomes increasingly difficult. Agriculture is a huge economic factor in this county, and we know that modern agriculture is radically dependent upon fossil fuels. What happens? We have acres and acres of forest land in this county, and we know that the forests are moving north. What do we do about that? We've got bugs, we've got invasive species, we've got diseases that affect us, livestock, crops, and it's going to get worse. We need to address that. Now, I think for some, maybe the county board looks like they're the people who pay the bills, but your job's a lot larger than that right now. And I have to commend you again for last year having made a very important decision, a unanimous decision, to defend and protect the quantity and the quality of the water in the county. It was a very, very significant decision. I was at the EQB meeting in November in St. Paul, and they came forward with this report, Adapting to Climate Change in Minnesota. I will make this report available to all of you on email. Two things, it was really impressive, and it was very encouraging to me, because two things are very clear. One is they're working together, all the agencies, the NPCA, the DNR, the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Health, all of them. And they're making their expertise available to local units of government. It seems to me that's very important. You need to begin to think how you're going to act. It seems to me that in fairness to today's children and to the coming generations, we, all of us, you guys as elected representatives and us as citizens, we need to begin to do something. I cannot imagine saying to future generations, oh yeah, we knew you were going to be living in horrible circumstances, but you know what? We couldn't be bothered to do anything. That's not acceptable. It's immoral. We've got to do better than that. Thank you.
Thanks, Beth. All right, we have time for one more. Anybody else? Okay, then we will go on to Carla.
So basically, when I put together this summary that had like the 2012 budget, the 2013, and the 2014 budget, for highway and for human services, they basically just have the 4 departments. Well, when I did the split for the with the salaries and without the salaries to see the percentage increases. It really doesn't provide you with a picture because they are so generalized in their departments as opposed to the departments in the courthouse. So they have additional information and they can explain how each of those departments works.
Yeah, like if you look at the, I guess, the highway fund, without the salaries, you can see where a few of the things kind of show the big changes, but, under the highway administration, office supplies, the mileage, lodging, all that stuff is going down in our budget. So, there isn't increases there. Highway maintenance side, the large increase in revenue. Where is that? Highway administration side, we had the wheels tax in there. So that is a huge increase in revenue. Under, I gotta skip over that page
Yeah.
first.
I didn't make them copies of that, did you?
Oh, they don't have copies of that? Okay.
Not of your one. I can go make copies so that they have it too.
Okay.
Just kind of make some notes and that way you can put it on there when I get one of those.
Sure.
I guess I forgot to, ask.
Okay, so on the administration side, we have a big increase due to the wheels tax on the revenue side. Everything else has pretty much gone down as far as expenditures. On the maintenance side, the one item that went, or two items that went up, one is the CDL payments, annual payment to our plow drivers for having a CDL license to get $125 a year. We have one more licensed CDL driver now. We replaced our 6 to 7 day employee for the last winter. We filled that position, that vacancy back. So that went up by $125. And then our county projects went up $35,000, and pulled it out here to see exactly what items went up. Went up $10,000 on traffic marking. We've been really pinching down on what we do for painting for the center lines and fog lines over the past few years. And we should be doing more than we have. Ideally, we'd be doing double on our budget allowance. So that went up $10,000. And then our maintenance and shoulder rock went up $25,000. Now, with the flooding that happened this year, maybe we won't need that much. Depending on how we get reimbursed back from FEMA from the state of disaster accounts, things are looking fairly good at this point as far as the odds that the state helps pitch in some money to help pay for some of the rock we lost in our shoulders. At this point, though, that's up in the air. We just have 2 other counties from District 7 that have said, yeah, we'll support you in that request. That there was damage. But the state hasn't said anything yet on there as far as if they support the request as well. So that's an item where, it's going up by $25,000. We actually have $230,000 worth of shoulder damage to our roadways. And so that's $90,000 more than what our budget is. That's not account for any rock we need in the spring or throughout the year for the section of roadway that falling apart and in bad shape. So state goes through on the shoulder side, maybe we can get by with, back to where we were this year on the actual maintenance rock, or maybe even slightly less. We don't call any shoulders, but at this point, without how things are, it's tough to cut that in the budget. Those are the 2 changes on the county projects. That's where that $35,000 comes from. I'll try to speed things up here since I'm meeting with Jay here in 2 minutes. The other items within the highway maintenance, those costs, everything else is going down. So we're cutting wherever we can. On the construction side, that varies by projects. I don't think there's anything that's, there's many items that are going up. next year should be less construction projects, so there's less material already getting out in the field as far as honing houses and all that in the ground, and some of the stuff that goes down. For the most part, though, that funding follows the revenues and expenditures kind of follow in line with each other. So one goes down, the other one goes down, one goes up, and one goes up. So nothing that we really have a whole lot of control over there that would affect the county's levy. The big levy item comes into the highway maintenance and equipment. The radios that were purchased by Armor System, in 2013, there was $260 for a radio maintenance agreement. The radios were under warranty at that point. This next year, they're not going to be under warranty anymore. So we have 2,800 or 2,807. Is that for the new agreement, or that's just for
We
the cost of
decided,
replacement?
we decided to handle them, not go with the maintenance contract and just repair them as needed.
So
It would be cheaper to do that.
yeah, so $2,800. That's what, 2 radios?
Yeah, I think
What did they want for maintenance? 280? What did you say it was? 260 a radio?
It was previously it was $260. Is what
Per
it
radio
was.
for maintenance, dude?
That was total.
That was total.
It was under warranty at that point.
No, but I mean, now that it's off
Warranty's
warranty.
off. What was the?
I really didn't research it, I'd be honest. I went off of what Scott Gittiger's recommendation was.
Scott's the one that looked at it, and pretty much everyone's going off the maintenance. So it's just, he didn't feel it was worth it.
Yeah.
The radios are like 2,500 each?
Yeah, like 2,400 a piece.
Like 4, okay, yeah. I know
And we've
that.
had pretty good luck with that.
Well, we had a couple radios had issues. So.
Hopefully that'll end.
So that was, a $2,800 increase, $2,600 increase. And the equipment for our copy machine went up. And then you get into liability insurance that went up, it's out of our control. The big item that affects us for next year is the major equipment purchases. The last couple of years, we've really pinched down. We haven't been budgeting anything for replacing plow trucks, dozers, scrapers, front-end loaders, any of that type of stuff. Vehicles really of any type. In 2013, we did purchase a plow truck in the spring due to the condition of our brine trucks. So we ended up spending some money on equipment, but we didn't have anything in the original budget for it. In 2014, we have a new plow truck, backhoe, and skid loader, and actually what's on here right now is also a new engineer for myself, Tahoe. Out of those, the only one that you really have any I guess technically have flexibility in any of them. I'd recommend replacing all of them. My vehicle, if you want to postpone that another year, you could. We've had a couple issues here with what we have a U-joint and bearings going, getting up there in the 860,000 miles on it. Wait till 2015 budget, it'll have 180,000 plus come January of 2015. So, getting up there in mileage, that could be pushed back another year if we want. However, 2015 budget for equipment is not going to be any better than 2014. So I would anticipate 2015 budget to be at least 150,000, if not higher, is what I'm going to come back in for recommendation. Equipment's getting old, can't delay it anymore. We've pushed back, we've got all the years out of it that we can. We've actually been replacing or repairing a lot of boxes on our dump trucks. The brine and the salt is just throwing them out. Just like my maintenance supervisor a few times here in the last couple months, we're spending a lot of money into equipment that's at the end of its useful life that could be better spent elsewhere.
So do they just take those to the salvage yard when you're done?
No, we sell them off. We might get like a local contractor, might get someone from out of county that'll buy them for $20,000, $30,000. They get so you get used on roadways that don't have salt put down so they don't, the corrosion doesn't keep up at the same rate as it does when we're using them.
So they still have some useful life in them.
There's still some useful life on them for the township system or for quarry owners that are, hauling rock, with just the summer months. It's the winter months that really beats up the trucks, the cold weather and the salt grind. This year, I think we had 3 boxes that we ended up replacing, the whole bottom sides of the boxes, all the different connections that the box don't fall off when they would let them up to dump the salt and sand out in the winter. And I think we have another 4 boxes that are in rough shape. It's just.
I'm just looking at our past budget for equipment parts, used to be around that 150,000. Then we bumped it up to 195, and right now, currently it's at 245. And as of today, we've spent 247,000 on equipment parts. So we're seeing that budget item skyrocket.
Yeah, purchase double the cost of the last 4 years.
What are you looking for total amount of equipment purchased? How many 100,000?
550.
550.
And what that is, it's 250 for a new plow truck, 180,000 for a new backhoe, 80,000 for a skid loader to replace your current one, and then 40,000 for replacing the Tahoe. And like I said, if you want to push the Tahoe replacement off to a future year, I'm fine with that. It just comes down to, if there has been some repairs, and then it impacts next year's budget more. But it's better to go that way than to try to balance it down and keep the years more equal. Go that route.
We should have been replacing equipment on an ongoing basis
That's the main.
before it wore down.
We talked about that throughout
should be
this
on a-
year, that we need to be on a schedule for that.
Scheduled replacement policy. Otherwise, you kick the can down the road, so to speak. And we're looking at $500,000 in equipment costs.
I think the big thing though is, you got, and that's true, and you need to keep replacing equipment and doing that stuff. I think a lot of money's been put in areas that shouldn't have been put there, and now it's not been managed properly. What I mean by that is we've spent money in areas that maybe we shouldn't have, that this wouldn't be a problem, but you put all your eggs in a certain basket. Now we start slitting our own throats in other areas. So I think it's, like Steve said, yeah, we should be doing this ongoing, but when you mismanage money, that's what happens. Now we're caught. So how do we get out of
Who's
this?
mismanaging money?
I think the board's mismanaged money for years. You look at next door, I will say that, and keep reiterating, next door, that's a lot of money. We could have used some of that money to be helping buy equipment. It is no secret, and I've said this many times, there's been a lot of money given out in raises and all that kind of stuff, which is great, and you should get that. But at what point do we say we can't afford it because we need to buy a truck for $275,000 instead of giving out $300,000 in raises? That's what I'm saying, is there might be years where we have to give in certain areas to compensate others. We can't just give, keep going. I mean, we're looking at an increase in the budget right now, plus buying all this equipment. I mean, nobody's ever come here and said, we need to stop spending. It's always, I want more, more, more. So that's my thing, is mismanaging. When do we say we can't afford that? We need to do this more. We can't keep giving and giving and giving. There's got to be a point in time in which we say, all right, we can't do that. So, and that's right, and you've come to that head, and we've done that with the equipment, and said we can't do it, we can't do it, we can't do it. Now we have to do it, but we also need to do all this other stuff too. So that's my big thing. Yeah, it has been mismanaged, big time.
Well, are you saying that because we have that building over there, we should have all crappy equipment?
Yeah, I am. If we can't have, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You spend $27 million when all that stuff is said and done, and $1 million in equipment, and another new building, and more taxes. I mean, at what point, just like your own checkbook, you want a new car? I don't have the money. I'd have to sacrifice somewhere else. So that's what I'm saying. We just got to balance the checkbook a little bit better than what we've been doing. So you're right,
Basically,
Steve,
right
it
now,
is.
we're trying to cut 78,000
Yep.
to reach our levy.
Well,
So
to
we're-
reach the levy, but yeah, it'd be nice to get it down to zero and give the taxpayers a
Well, I
little break.
think that's
And I don't
almost
know that they
impossible to
would
do that.
want as many services cut that would have to be cut to do what you're talking about.
Well, there's going to be a point in time we can't just keep going. Maybe a service has to get cut. When is the reality that You can't tax people out of their homes. When's that reality?
Well, let's concentrate on getting the 78,000 down to begin with.
Sure, so we can get that to begin with, sure. So where do we go with there?
Well, if Brian has some that he can get by with his Tahoe in another year, that's 40,000 right there.
Mhm.
19,000 if you count for the 21,000 in taxes.
Oh, okay. 19,000.
But if we're looking at another $550,000 for other equipment, that 45 really is a moot point, right?
Okay, 40,000 with that, yeah, well,
We're looking at the total budget though, the total county budget, and we need to come down $78.
Sure.
Right, I mean, basically, and I know, we spoke with the sheriff department this morning, they're willing to let a car go for another year. So that would be 30,000, you know.
Which I know
I mean,
they're
we
gonna
got-
come back and say, in 2 years, see, we held on that car, we need 3 now. I mean, that's, I mean, it's kind of kicking the can around that nothing's getting resolved,
Well,
so.
we can't cut wages, it's all contracted till next year,
Mhm.
till you do a union, so that's a,
Yep,
I mean, we can't do anything about that.
right. So is this the time to be doing that? Should we wait till next year when we have renegotiations, we start spending $500,000 on new equipment?
Well, we have to get snow plows, and we have to get, I mean, those are things that we can't let go, right?
Yeah, to an extent. I would
So you
debate that's
think-
very difficult,
so
that
you-
we couldn't let that go another year. I
The-
would very
the
debate that very
equipment?
hard. Absolutely.
I guess I would debate the plow trucks, let them go. You're already at a 15, 16-year trade-in on those if you go any longer. I mean, they're junk, some of them are absolutely junk, Justin.
I know that, Sheila, but I gotta tell you, as the only qualified mechanic in here, I'm gonna pull this card and say, I know what's junk and what's not. Brian's saying, what's junk, the useful life is gone on it, but yet you're saying we can sell it to a township to keep using it. Well, the useful life is not out of it then. The skid loader that you're talking about, you know, I gotta just say, again, I have qualifications to talk about this. Now, you're right, you can't kick that can too far down the road. We have done that, we have. Now we're coming to fruition where we've got all this equipment that needs to be replaced. Maybe one, but all? All? I mean, if you need a plow truck, we can understand a plow truck or something, but plow truck, a backhoe, a skid loader, a truck,
yes.
it's a lot to ask for.
All of this has been pushed off. It's been pushed off and pushed off and pushed off. You can look at Winona County, okay, you can say that maybe they're spending money where they don't need to spend money. They just sold 5 dump trucks that they've been used for plow trucks. Out of those 5 trucks, we have 9 trucks older than what they just got rid of.
Sure. And do they have a new jail
We
to
have
pay
4
for?
trucks that are newer than what they have. You know, I mean, I don't know what they have, you know, I haven't looked at their budget, I don't know what they're paying for in that.
Again, it's hard to compare to another county all the time, because we don't have the exact same apples to apples.
Oh, absolutely.
I'll give you an example. That skid loader is what, an S185? A wheeled skid loader, but you want a tracked one that's more than double the price of the one you're trying to replace? When did we say we want to upscale that? I mean, if you said our skid loader's junk, it literally fell apart, it doesn't run, okay, get a replacement, but your replacement is twice what the replacement value of that current one is. That's what I'm saying, we got to watch our expenditures. If you said, our skid loader doesn't run, we need another one, another S185 or another, you know, the S250s or something, fine. But to ask for an $84,000 tracked one to replace the $35,000 one that it would be, I mean, that's where I'm going with this. Is, you know, and it's the same thing with the highway department building. We'll get you a maintenance building, but it went from a maintenance building to a maintenance complex. That's where I've got an issue. We'll replace what we need, but replacement doesn't mean above and beyond what needs to be replaced. We don't have the money to do that. And again, if we didn't have certain things in this county, we could do that, but we, the board, has over the years chose to put money in certain areas. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You're right. You know, other counties have been replacing their equipment. They have the money to do it. I don't think necessarily Houston County has the money to do that. We would if we were smart with it. But asking for 5 big pieces of equipment, that's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Well, next year it's gonna be, you wanna know how many it's gonna be next year?
I don't care what it's gonna be next year. The
That's
point.
the-
You
But
have to
Justin, that's
look at the
exactly the
future.
problem, is
You
you're
can't
not
look
looking in the
right-
future.
Thank you. Let's look at the future. Why are we not looking at the future? We don't have money to do certain things that we want to do. So instead of looking at the future and saying, here's our trend line, we can't continue down this path. How do we recover so we can? Nobody's ever asked and said, this projection is not sustainable. It's not sustainable. We cannot continue on this path. So at what point do we level out?
It's what it was on the equipment side. The equipment was up here, and it dropped way down. And it dropped way down before you were on the board. back in 2009 or 10, probably 2009, is when equipment kind of got cut out. So that, right there, that was a budget saving item, push things back, both on highway equipment, sheriff's equipment and stuff. So that gave that board $200,000 worth of additional funding to put elsewhere, instead of increasing taxes and doing stuff. That cut has remained. At some point, you need to get back up to where it was, or actually now beyond, to start replacing stuff. You get back up, and then that cost is going to stay, up that level for a little bit, and hopefully get it back down. You can't keep it down all the way. And with the equipment, our equipment's aging. I mean, we have issues. When your parts doubles in 4 years, it's because of that age. We had a brine truck that we weren't able to recertify to put on the roadway this year. We have trucks that we're replacing the underbodies within all the framework of boxes because there's not enough support there to hold the box once they go to tip it up to start dumping sand out of it. And that's getting worse. We need to do something. We can't keep patching stuff together. It's just, we've come to a point where we need to do it and we just can't keep delaying. Funding wise, I know that, you're struggling with, you're between a rock and a hard place. What can you do? It's tough. I can't make a recommendation not to replace them. As far as the skid loader, currently we do have a rubber tired skid loader instead of a track. There's a lot of areas that we can't go with that to get the most bang for the buck.
Do you have metal tracks? $1,500 metal tracks?
They're rubber tracks. They've had some issues with the tracks with the wear and tear on them. They're not holding up, they're not staying on like what was anticipated when they were purchased.
And just so people know, on a track skid loader, the replacement of the tracks is 10 grand. Just FYI, so when those tracks wear out, it's $10,000. So it is a much more expensive machine to maintain as well. But keep going.
Yeah, well, that's about all I have. But with anything on equipment, you're going to replace it with everything's changing. I mean, when you buy a piece of equipment now, 10 years is going to be you doing stuff differently. Equipment keeps getting bigger, the roadways get wider, the culverts get heavier. You need to replace stuff with what you need for that time. And it's not uncommon for equipment costs to get a bigger backhoe, bigger wings than your plow truck, bigger, just everything. You can gain some efficiencies by having bigger equipment.
Do we gain more efficiencies in the price of the machine? Or we gain $550,000 in efficiency savings somewhere else?
I would have to do an analysis on that and tell you, but you know what? When you have a machine for several years and you're paying someone by the hour, and every scoop of that bucket you can get a lot more stuff in it, you decrease your time on different sites. And over the life of the machine, you can decrease a lot of time, which just saves on staffing costs. If it saves you, having to hire out contractors to do work for us because we can get more stuff done. It adds up a little bit at time, and over several years on $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 difference, I would bet to guess that you can save over time. I haven't ran the numbers to see. I'd have to sit down with Tom and really talk about where our issues that we're having our skid steer going, and what we're hiring out contractors instead of us because of it. I can definitely do that. I can bring Tom in here and talk to the board about that.
We all know Tom's going to want new stuff, so you don't need to bring him in here to tell us that, but yeah. Now, I don't mean to keep waiting on you. I know Bob has been taking a lot of time to sit here. Do you want to continue with this after Rick, or after Jay?
Yeah, Jay too.
That's what I'm saying. Do we want to go to Jay and continue with this, or do you want to?
If we need to be better, Jay might not be available later. We told him that.
Yeah, we need to go into closed session.
I think that I would rather look at this next week instead of later again because I like to have the figures in front of me to look at before we're throwing things out here, like I didn't see this stuff and I didn't focus on highway when I was preparing for today because I didn't know that was the only thing we were looking at. I'm tired of feeling like we don't know what's going on and we only have one professional on the board. I'm about fed up with it.
One
And if-
professional, I feel like keep going with that. The fact that I'm the only certified one, so I have qualifications to talk on a subject. Yeah, I am. And I am.
To everything, you have qualifications than the rest of us per se, but you know.
Pretty good for me then.
Yeah,
So,
go for it. So could we put this out? to the
hold on,
next-
hold on. Professionalism at its worst. Judy,
Sorry,
please
I'm
watch your
sorry.
mouth.
I am so sorry, but this has been really hard to sit through.
All right, can you guys come back next week?
Sure.
And Carol, do we have any more budgeting stuff next week going on?
Just what you want to review.
Okay.
We'll be talking youth services today and how you want to approach it.
Sounds good. Good.
I'll start writing some other tasks on there.
Now, see if we can get hold of Jay first, see what kind of situation he's in before we, I guess,
Yeah,
maybe not even available before we go to closed session.
yeah. I would think
Just check it out.
And he can put on a, I mean, tell him the reasons why.
Yes. Yeah, just rather than clear the room and then, oh, come on, guys.